Please take your seats. The show is about to begin.
Hello, everyone, and good afternoon. I think the bar might be open already, so I hope people are enjoying that. Welcome to day one, afternoon one of Axios House. I'm Amy Harder, and I just rejoined Axios a couple of weeks ago. I'm their national energy correspondent, and I'm thrilled to be back. A quick plug. Our Axios team has just relaunched what was formerly Generate, our energy newsletter, as Future of Energy. It will still arrive in your inboxes Monday through Friday. Raise of hands, who here is signed up for Generate and now Future of Energy? Okay, everybody whose hand did not go up, please go to Axios.com and navigate to the newsletters and you can sign up. The newsletter will have very much the same premise as what Generate did, but with an extra focus on the people and the technologies and the resources of our future, and it will align with our other Future of newsletters. A huge kudo to the Axios newsroom for helping make that newsletter relaunch happen, and thank you to the Axios events team and all of our supporters in making this lovely space come to life. And one final note, if you are following along today on social media, X and LinkedIn and others, please use the hashtag Axios House. So without further ado, I'm excited to get started with our next few conversations about responsibly powering the future of data use. So please welcome to the stage Heidelberg Materials Chief Sustainability and New Technologies Officer, Dr. Katharina Beumelburg. Thank you very much for being with us today, Katharina.
Thank you for having me.
So I'm going to dive right into an opening lightning round question. You know, it's the afternoon. Some of us might be sluggish. So we're going to make sure we're all on our toes. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not at all and 10 being completely, how much has the AI and the corresponding energy boom changed your job?
Looking at my industry, I would say 6 to 7.
Okay. So let's dive deeper into that. What are you doing today that you weren't doing a year or two ago?
So today, AI and digitalization is helping us in a lot of different ways. For example, if you get to recipes for concrete to get the optimized characteristics for concrete for a special project, you use AI. If you think about everything that has to do with sustainability, that's obviously very close to my job. We use a lot of data analytics in terms of getting to the right reporting, in terms of understanding where our emissions are. But that obviously needs data quality. And in companies, in very old companies and very traditional companies like my one, this is a long way to go. And this is why I was saying it's a 6 to 7. I think there's still a lot of opportunity in this.
I think people forget. I mean, of course, most of the focus in our world of energy and climate has been on the energy use. But of course, we need to build all of these, data farms inside something, and that something is cement.
Yes. Actually, the truth is, cement is after water the second most used material on the planet. And you basically, everything you see is cement. Yeah? If you look out of the window, if you walk a street, if you look at bridges, all of that is cement. So this is why, and it's around 8% of global carbon emissions. So this is why it's a very important task to really work on the decarbonization.
So I had the pleasure of actually visiting one of your cement plants in Norway. And I understand there's been some interesting happenings there. Why don't you tell us?
Yes. Actually, Amy visited Brevik in Norway. Brevik is the first industrial scale carbon capture plant in the cement industry that we inaugurated in June. I can tell you, it is a very, very spectacular setup because you have this old cement plant, and cement plants are rusty, dusty. It's kind of low tech, if you want so. And next to it, you have what basically is a chemical plant, which is shiny, complicated, high tech. And there, since June, we are able to capture the carbon from the process. So actually, when you produce cement, 1/3 of the carbon is from energy that we use, and 2/3 are out of the process itself. And what we do is we produce the regular cement, capture the carbon, and then store it in the Northern Lights project under the North Sea.
Not the actual Northern Lights. That would be a novel innovation.
Actually, Northern Lights is a carbon capture and storage project which is under the North Sea.
So that was interesting when you say, I think many of us are used to carbon emissions coming from something like oil, natural gas, or coal, but in this case, it's the actual chemical process that cement is made, to make cement. So what are the types of technologies? So you mentioned carbon capture. Are there other types of technologies that you and other companies are considering to try to bring that down?
Clearly. So basically, if you want to produce cement, what you do is you burn limestone. And when you burn limestone at around 1,500 degrees, a lot of CO2 gets out. So this is where it actually comes from. So we basically run the regular cement process and then capture the carbon. But before that, obviously, we are working on a lot of other levers to get those emissions down before you get to the carbon capture and storage process. And there are two major levers that most of the cement companies around the globe work on. One is alternative fuels. So instead of coal, we are using alternative fuels as much as we can, and we do have plants that run 100% on alternative fuels. And the second is so-called secondary cementitious materials, which is instead of limestone, you use waste materials, which eventually can lead to the same characteristics of the cement. And if you use both of these levers to a very high degree, you can reduce carbon emissions by up to 50%, but the rest stays. And I think for the rest, the ultimate measure is carbon capture and storage. But in comparison, obviously, carbon capture and storage is far more expensive. So you need to make sure that all the other levers you really have used as much as you can.
I want to shift to expenses and costs and things like that. pretty important equation, increasingly so, I would say, in today's conversation. We hear from some Trump administration officials that Europe is not as competitive as the United States, partly due to higher energy prices. So how is your company ensuring that prices of cement don't go up much, if at all, even when you're being more sustainable?
That's a very interesting point, Amy. So first of all, if you look at the history of cement, has a comparably stable price, and it's a very, very local product. So you do not transport cement further than, let's say, 100 kilometers, which is great because topics like tariffs don't really have an influence on cement.
That's good. That must be one less problem for you to have to worry about.
That's true. Now, the measures that I was talking about before, alternative fuels and secondary cementitious materials, do not necessarily mean that cement gets more expensive. Actually, in some countries, it does get cheaper. For example, the topic of alternative fuels, that's often waste that otherwise would go in landfills, and that can make the cement to a certain degree cheaper, or at least we can keep the price levels. Carbon capture and storage as the ultimate way to get to a net carbon zero cement, that obviously does make it more expensive because the process is more expensive, and this is why I said it's important to make sure that all the other levers are used as far as we can.
So on the data center boom in particular, can you talk to us about, in generalities if needed, but some of your customers or potential customers in the tech sector, are they willing partners to use cleaner cement or perhaps pay for the cost of capturing that carbon from cement?
So first of all, I think we need to realize that if you think about something like a data center, the cement is a very, very important part of the life cycle carbon emissions. Because if you think, first of all, the energy demand is the biggest chunk of the emissions that they have. But if the energy has turned to either renewables or nuclear, and the emission have gone down, then from what is left, 50% of the life cycle carbon emissions of a building are actually the embodied carbon. And from this embodied carbon, so from the 50%, half is the cement. So it's actually, the cement itself is a very, very big lever. Now, if you look at, if you take net carbon zero or near zero cement, and it's more expensive, if you look at the total investment of the project, the price does increase, but only a low one-digit number. So in comparison to the whole project, the price increase is comparably low, and it does come with a lot of positive effects. And one that is very obvious is that you get cheaper loans if you build green, dependent on the kind of financing.
Is that still the case here in the United States as well?
We will have to see how that develops. So the truth is we are selling the Evo, so we call it Evo Zero cement, basically since 3 months. So we will have to see how that develops. We are working with banks on exactly that topic.
And banks in the United States as well as Europe?
Both. And we will see how to what we get there.
Are you seeing appetite from data center developers to use this greener cement?
Yes, we do. Looking at a lot of the data center developments, I think everybody's searching for all different kinds of levers to really reduce carbon emissions due to the very high carbon footprint. And so obviously it comes to the building materials as well.
And I guess what I'm trying to get at is that it sounds like you're still seeing interest from this industry, even though there's not a federal government pressure on that point.
That is true.
So can you take us like inside the room of some of these conversations, leaving out names, but I think we would find it interesting if you could share a little bit more about how these conversations go. Do you suggest to them the new product is one that's been on the market for 3 months? Or is it something, because all of these companies we know, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, they're leaders in the sustainability space. So is it sort of a mutually agreeable conversation?
So first of all, I think what we see is that all of these tech companies hold their targets and really fight for reducing carbon emissions. Now, the interesting part in our case is that cement has been a commodity for the last, 100 years. And the typical customer of a cement company is a tier 1 to tier 3 construction company, so not necessarily a data center company. And for us, it's very interesting times because we are establishing completely new relationships to these companies, including the fact that we have to make it more public that this product is available. And that goes via construction companies, via project companies that actually work with the tech companies on these projects. And we do talk to the tech companies themselves as well. And I think taking into consideration that they are going through all levers that they have, they eventually get to the point that they try to bring carbon emissions of building materials down. And this is when you eventually will get to us, since we are the pioneering ones for net carbon zero cement.
Speaking of that, I want to kind of go back into the big picture of climate tech. Typically the way we think about things is we have companies like yours that have been around a long time and leaders in the space, and then you have startups that are pioneering new technologies. How do you see these startups? Do you see them as potential acquirer targets? Do you see them as competitors? Do you see yourselves as partners?
Nice question. First of all, I think the whole topic of the startups is they are very, very helpful because they have easier processes to drive innovation forward, and they are faster. I think the part that is missing is the ability to globally scale. So our company is in more than 50 countries around the world. So if we want to scale a technology, for us, it's comparably easy. And I think this is why the combination of technologies from startup and the global companies that are able to scale these innovations globally, that's what makes it really powerful. So we are directly working with some of these startups. We are always scouting startups and looking into the space, what's happening in the building materials sector. We are doing innovation challenges to find new ideas and to be able to cooperate and partner, and that way scale it faster.
That's so interesting, and I would love to keep in touch on that, Katharina, because in the energy climate space, you haven't seen as much big companies acquiring the new startups. That hasn't happened yet. We'll see if it does happen. We are in our final moments, so I want to conclude with a lightning round game of Would You Rather.
Oh, nice.
So,
that sounds dangerous, yeah?
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Would you rather partner more with government or other corporations?
We need both.
But if you had to choose, if you had to choose just one, which one would you choose?
So since 50% of our customers are governmental projects, it would be governments.
And don't worry, this is completely on the record, so no, I'm just kidding. Would you rather spend an hour in Climate Week and UNGA traffic or 45 minutes on the subway?
45 minutes on a subway.
Yeah, this is a no-brainer. It's a trick question to see who hates the subway, which is more people than I have been surprised to find. Would you rather have an AI model that always agrees with you or always pushes back on you?
Always pushes back.
Would you rather see the past or change the future?
Change the future.
Okay, well, with that, thank you very much, Katharina.
Thank you. Thank you, Amy.
Yes, thank you. And up next, we have Axios publisher Nick Johnston.
Very nice. Thank you, Amy.
Hello, folks. Good afternoon. I'm Nicholas Johnston. Nicholas, I should know my own name on the first day of Climate Week. I'm Nicholas Johnston, the publisher of Axios. Thank you so much for joining us today at Axios House. It's so great to be back in New York on the sidelines of UN General Assembly, of Climate Week. Axios House is something we stand up all over the world. This is one of our premier locations, so we're very grateful for all of you for joining us. We're also hugely grateful for all of our partners. Nothing we do at Axios would be possible without the support of our partners. The investments in journalism we make around the country, fun conversations like this. So huge thanks to SLB for making today's conversation possible, and I'm very excited to welcome for a view from the top conversation, SLB's president, Gavin Rennick. Gavin, welcome to Axios House. There's the music. Hello, sir. How are you?
Fantastic.
Let's start big picture. Give us a little bit of an update on like the transformation of SLB and the role you see the company playing, like I think in the biggest energy story now, the huge growth of AI data centers.
Well, look, we've been an energy company. Next year will make 100 years that the company's existed, and somehow always occupied a niche of being the technology company that works in the energy space for a long time, upstream oil and gas, and today. And then around 2020, we started to look at this whole energy transition challenge and see what was the part that needed energy innovation and where could a company like us have something to contribute. And really, our capability is around looking at very, very complex technical problems, somehow solving them, producing a product, and taking it out to everywhere in the world, right? We have a bit over 100,000 people, more than 80 countries, all of that kind of thing, and we can deliver some pretty sophisticated solutions to customers across that scale. So then my division in the company was formed around 2020. In 2022, we rebranded the company. Formerly Schlumberger to SLB, and introduced that decarbonization curve into our logo to be very clear about the statement of what it is we wanted to do. And since then, we've been building businesses to somehow impact that, making investments. I look after the venture capital piece of the company in promising technologies and startups that we think we can help in their journey and can be part of our portfolio. And then building more and more scaled businesses across the space.
You mentioned decarbonization, so I want to dig into that a little deeper. What's the real challenge, I think, at the heart of that when you balance both the needs for decarbonization and then the explosive energy growth required for data centers?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a broad need for decarbonization across all industries, but maybe we'll talk to data centers. That's one of the most pointy drivers, if you like, at the moment. If you take a look at, we're working with all of the hyperscalers at the moment. And if you take a look, the way that we contribute to helping them with their challenge is really in a first degree way and a second degree way. The first degree way is they need to get data centers built, and those data centers need to be efficient, and they need to be delivered reliably and very, very fast, right? And as a company, we know how to deliver equipment that's high quality industrial scale equipment anywhere in the world very, very fast. So one of the, part of the company has stood up a manufacturing division. We have a factory in Louisiana that employs 1,000 people today that will this year deliver, I think, 630 megawatts of the equipment needed to cool and manage temperature in data centers and energy to 14 different hyperscaler sites. So there's a piece around, okay, can we help the whole data center market move faster, which is one of the challenges it has. The second piece is, can we get them clean power? So our geothermal business is over 50 years old, and right now with everything that's going on, it's growing extremely fast. We've always been, the leader by a huge margin in the subsurface, but recently we've teamed up with a company called Ormat that many of you may know that is actually very, very capable, the largest builder of binary power plants in the world. So now we're able to approach the market and say, here's a full geothermal asset that you can switch on, and a developer or an asset owner can write a PPA to a data center customer. So there's that part in geothermal, and the same goes in abated gas. So right now, the fastest vector to power is gas in the United States, particularly, and there is a premium that these companies with their sustainability credentials want to achieve from decarbonizing that gas. So we have a carbon capture and storage business that is growing extremely well. We have 2 plants operating, 2 more under construction, all producing power, and another 5 in engineering at the moment that we're starting to scale out. And I think, if I recall, there's some of the estimates are there's about 50 million tons of potential abated gas just coming out of the data center demand in the United States. And then obviously we have a storage business as well, so we play in both parts of the value chain to try and streamline that and be able to actually deliver that.
So that touches on a little bit of the new technology innovations that are solving some of this. What are some other things, from an innovative standpoint, that you're excited about, that you see that are being brought to bear to solve some of these challenges?
Good. I mean, I think from a technology innovation point, every part of this market is evolving rapidly. We have for every plant we deliver, we have 1-2 different technologies under the hood in R&D that can cut the delivered economics in half or improve it by that amount. So there's a tremendous amount of back office engineering going on, but then there's also value chain innovation. So I was talking about those other examples as the first degree of separation. The second thing that we're doing is 2 things. One, I think Katharina was on the stage before talking about cement. When you build data centers, you consume building material. Maybe it's cement, maybe it's steel, maybe it's other materials. So we're working with those customers. In fact, the technology in the plants you referred to is ours, to be able to create industries that are decarbonized. And similarly, on the other end of the value chain, we are creating and enabling negative carbon projects. So pulp and paper is an excellent example in the United States. Pulp and paper is very negative in terms of emissions if you store the carbon well.
Right.
We have a company called CO280 that is a developer that's building out this whole industry, and we're doing the same for waste to energy and for power from biomass and so on in Europe. So in that way, the credits generated by that are bought by the hyperscalers and the data center customers as another pathway.
Like a much more comprehensive
for them to do. Yeah,
specific.
so you're actually touching every part of the value chain through technology solutions and being able to do that at scale.
A great part about Climate Week is just like the wide width of people that are here, like looking at ways to help. What is your advice for folks in the room when they go back to their companies or their countries or their agencies? Like how they can better be a force for good? How can they partner, collaborate with some of the goals you have?
I think there are a few different. It's a huge question because there's no doubt a very broad and sophisticated range of people here. I think removing friction is really useful. I mean, purposefully looking at where there's a barrier in the system to being able to move forward in a good way, particularly if you're somehow involved in the regulatory space, whether it's somehow being able to get a grid connection faster, or a permit achieved faster, or a project stood up around that's got great environmental credentials faster. That's one. The second is to understand really the technology mix in the value chain. These are complex value chains, right? And we have carbon storage projects in the world waiting on carbon capture.
Right.
And we have carbon capture projects in the world waiting on carbon storage. And the reality is there's a certain amount of momentum that these industries need to be able to get up to scale. So anything that you can that people can do in that space is great. And then be inquisitive and be a voice for technical truth is really our backbone. And I sometimes say to my team, and I know this is, we need money, we need great regulation, and then we need engineers to build the solution.
Right.
And
well,
I think
let's spin that forward a little bit. We're about to get the hook here, but in the minute we have left, give us something optimistic. With that whole picture, what makes you optimistic about us being able to solve these challenges in the future?
I'm extremely optimistic.
Why?
I think from the journey that we've been on the last few years, we've seen things go from ideas on a piece of paper. Right? I have a business that was a piece of paper 3 years ago that's actually turning on a scale demonstrator going into a steel plant today. And I can see serious companies and across every industry space really starting to get traction and gain momentum. And that's not necessarily the frothy stuff that you see in the news every day, but underlying all of this, I can see real traction.
On the real basics, not maybe gee whiz stuff, but really fundamental type things are moving more quickly.
Yeah, real full-scale plants, real large projects, real things that show the world that you can actually have an impact on that carbon curve.
Right.
They're starting to happen now, and that vector is only accelerating. And so I feel extremely positive.
That's a great positive note to end on. Gavin, thanks for being here. Thanks for SLB for making the conversation possible. Amy Harder is going to come back up and continue the conversation.
Thank you.
Gavin.
Hello again, everyone. Good to see everyone again. For our final conversation in this session, I would like to welcome up our next speaker, Hillery Hunter, CTO of IBM Infrastructure and General Manager of IBM Power Systems. Hillery, thanks so much for being with us today. So I'm going to start with another lightning round. If you were here earlier, you might know what it is, but I don't think you were. So
I wasn't.
Okay, great.
Surprise.
So nobody in the audience, tell her. So on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not at all and 10 being completely, how much has AI and the corresponding energy boom changed your job?
So it would be very easy to say 10, but I'm going to say 9 because while I'm spending a tremendous amount of time on AI and optimizing for AI energy consumption, there's still some core value propositions around security and resiliency in that context for the enterprise that remain consistent.
You mean the robots aren't just going to take over?
Exactly.
Yeah, okay, good. But what is the biggest environmental and climate challenge you see emerging from this frenzy AI boom?
Yeah, I mean, I think from an enterprise perspective where I spend most of my time, everyone is working right now to focus on the energy optimization of their infrastructure.
And can you briefly explain what you mean by enterprise?
Yeah, by enterprise, I mean, large organizations that are servicing a lot of employees, that are servicing a lot of customers. And when it comes to AI, it means that's, organizations that are trying to deal with 10,000 employees or 1 million customers. And all of that means AI at scale, and therefore it means infrastructure and IT at scale. And how do you reconcile all of that?
So we're at such a frenzied state of growth. Are you worried that the industry isn't genuinely implementing practices to safeguard the environment at a moment like this?
I mean, I think there are a lot of people taking a lot of action, right? And we talk sometimes about the largest of environments to support AI, but day in and day out, we're working with clients that are looking to and that see really sustainability as the foundation for scalability in AI. You have to address the scalability to be able to cost efficiently deploy it. And so, we are working with companies that are partnered with us, everything from the chips and the transistors to the algorithms and the software and the AI models themselves, and are taking a sustainable and scalable approach.
So a big focus among stakeholders this week at Climate Week, but really writ large, is the energy cost repercussions of this boom. To what extent do energy challenges reach your desk?
They absolutely do, right? I mean, from the perspective of our cloud data centers, we're working on getting to a place this year where we have 75% of our energy supplied to those cloud facilities through renewable energy. We have data centers already that are 100% renewable energy based. And then when it deals with clients that are outside of the cloud, the cost of energy and energy consumption, reducing carbon footprint are absolutely considerations. Even financial services institutions that are using mainframes to use AI for fraud detection and things like that, by upgrading their infrastructure, they're getting upwards of 60% improvement in energy efficiency. And so modernization of infrastructure right now and accommodating this era of AI is as fundamental as we as consumers think about, should I insulate my house? That seems like an obvious answer. And yes, you need to move your IT into a position to deal with this current era and do it efficiently.
Is there a risk, with energy efficiency, there's this term, I think it's something called like the rebound effect, where if you're being more energy efficient, well, I'll just use more energy. Is that, in this moment of frenzied growth, is that happening?
I think in some cases there is an opportunity to do more if you tune up your energy consumption. But I do think that in most cases it's a matter of taking inventory, setting up a sustainable environment, and taking actions to reduce at this point in time. But with every single AI project that people debate implementing in their IT, there's obviously a very clear ROI calculation, and they're looking, at the energy efficiency, at the infrastructure efficiency, at the data center efficiency, et cetera, in order to make those decisions. And so it kind of comes on a project by project basis, I would say.
So throughout today, we've been talking a lot about AI, but also a lot about other things. And one way I'm thinking about it in my head is that we're there's sort of two parallel focuses for me as a journalist anyway, and I'm guessing for a lot of others in the room. And one is the AI implications for energy and climate and otherwise. But the other is, of course, the changes that are being brought on by this new Trump administration. To what extent are you engaging with the federal government or the state government? So I guess that's my first question, and then I'll follow from that. But just to let you answer that, to what degree are you engaging with them?
Yeah, so I personally, in my role, not so much directly. I mean, I think, but if we look at, if I can take a step out of this country and go globally with this week that we have here, we are seeing governments seeing AI and concerned about the efficiency of AI as useful for projects in a wide variety of areas, right? I mean, if we look at the UAE, they've partnered with us to use our AI in order to look at heat spots within urban areas. And they've actually been able to reduce temperature by 3 degrees Celsius, which is pretty impressive. You know, government in Kenya working with us to look at deforestation and planning reforestation, again, using AI-based models. So I think in general, as we look at this from a global technology perspective, there's absolutely opportunities for governments, you know, to engage in this topic.
That got me thinking about, so, you know, again, we focus a lot on the impact of AI on our energy systems, but you just raised an incredibly important point, which is the benefits AI can bring to these issues.
Absolutely, yeah.
So a quick raise of hands for the audience. Raise your hand if you've asked ChatGPT or another AI model something about itself, i.e. how can AI help with X? Somebody done that? Okay, a few of us are admitting it. I've done it. And so my question for you, Hillary, is how can AI help itself be better to its environment and our environment?
Yeah, and again, answering from the IT lens, I think there's a tremendous amount of work going on in this space, right? Not only are predictive AI models being used for energy grid optimization and planning of power and optimization of that, but within the data center, AI is pervasive now. It's being used to do power and thermal shifting. We have capabilities that are deployed on products, monitoring workloads, determining when the most efficient time is spinning up extra infrastructure only when it's needed. So you're not consuming power waiting around for a burst of activity, but you know that people tend to come online at a certain time or you need to process a batch of work overnight. And so that kind of just-in-time computation, spinning things up proactively. So I think AI is being used extensively to monitor and optimize data centers that are also delivering AI and delivering other workloads. And it's an exciting time because that means that you can optimize the thing that we're all concerned about the energy efficiency of.
A report just came out, I think today, if today's Monday, right? Yeah, today's still Monday.
Still Monday.
At CSIS about the benefits of AI to the electricity grid. Mm-hmm. And in there it talks about how AI is kind of a black box. Raise your hand if you think AI is a black box. None of us really understand how it works, let's be honest. Maybe you, Hillary, and a couple other people. Can you help us understand, like, is there a way for us sort of lay people to understand what it is, so therefore we can understand the environmental impacts of it?
Yeah, I always try to assure people it's just math, and
well, that doesn't help.
That may not help, but I think you can think of it in a couple ways, right? So it's a bunch of math, specifically matrix multiplies, if we want to go there. But
I never even took that class.
Yeah, it's a bunch of math, and it runs on particular types of computer chips. So today we have accelerators that run that kind of math more efficiently, and that's part of the conversation. About becoming more efficient with AI is using the right kind of computer. It's not exactly the same as the chips in your cell phone. The cell phones also now have little accelerators in them. And so this acceleration for AI, this special computer chip, so to say, for AI are in everything from your cell phone to your laptop to your mainframe to cloud computers these days. And when organizations are looking at how to do AI and scale AI, they have choices going all the way down to the silicon and the transistors and how that AI is done efficiently. They have choices up at the software. And at the software level, things like a platform approach to AI, meaning AI not just being something that lives in one place as a giant model, but AI that can be deployed across that full landscape of where there is computing, can help energy optimize, right? Because you can imagine if the AI should be running on your tablet there, that's much more energy efficient than it running off somewhere far away where there's a lot of communication to it. So taking a platform approach from a software perspective is also a really important part of this journey for enterprises that are looking to be energy efficient. And there's a lot of options these days in that full spectrum of where that computing can happen that gives you those answers to the questions that you're asking AI.
So this might be a little bit outside your wheelhouse, but I see if you can touch on it. a big component of the energy consumption of AI is the air conditioning that is required. Is that something that reaches your desk at all? And how can we make that more efficient?
Yeah,
you could turn it down in here, first of all. That might save us some emissions.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's interesting because we talk about often when you walk into a facility that's well optimized, a data center, you think of it, think of a football field and a whole bunch of computers laid out in it. And yeah, there's air conditioning running in there. But the air conditioning is proportionate to how efficient those systems are. We work with clients that are looking to reduce their energy footprint and moving from the systems area. I work in the power systems from Power 9 to Power 11, our most recent one. You get a 60% automatic savings in energy consumption, which means you can drop your air conditioning bill. There's less cooling required to keep that system running in a healthy way. And so upgrading infrastructure, using the right accelerator chips, as I mentioned, the right computing to do AI efficiently, all those choices can feed directly into what your air conditioning bill is going to be, what the water bill and water utilization and things like that. So we can talk about, saving hundreds of, metric tons of carbon or translate that energy efficiency into other values. But AC absolutely in cooling and data centers is directly proportionate to the choices that you make and the optimizations in this space.
Is it sort of like a building that's well insulated doesn't need as much air conditioning or heating
Absolutely.
as a less well insulated?
Absolutely.
So in terms of the efficiency of the chips.
Yeah. I mean, the goal is to keep the servers at a certain temperature where they run well. When they get hot, things, don't run as well and don't run as efficiently. So the reason that computing environments for AI are kept cool is actually to keep everything operating well. But if it's a well-designed system and you've made good choices and you're using modern infrastructure, you can lower the amount of cooling that's needed overall.
You mentioned water. Fun fact, we all learned in our last session with Katharina that it's the most used product in the world, and then cement is second. I think I have that right. So tell us how water fits into this and what IBM is doing on this front.
Yeah, so I mean, we have for a very long time worked on efficient cooling systems. And so for our clients, for example, that have high-end systems, mainframes and things like that, the cooling systems are very efficient and intended to kind of keep everything at that really great operating point. I think the sort of ultra dense and sort of high water kind of environments are more associated to what you might consider consumer AI. And in enterprise AI, I think things are generally a lot more focused on efficiency, because I said you're trying to have something that's affordable ultimately in terms of scaling and deploying AI.
So can you maybe go a little bit deeper on how water exactly is used?
Yeah, so water is a really efficient vehicle for removing heat from things, right? So jump into a pool and you're going to feel cool pretty quickly versus, sitting in a room, right? And so think of that same kind of thing when you're trying to cool off electronics. Water can be a really easy way, an efficient way, actually, to remove heat.
And the more efficient the chips are, the less hot.
Exactly. That's exactly right. So it all ties back to that conversation about designing for purpose, picking software that enables you to deploy your AI on the right kind of infrastructure and the right, most efficient locations to minimize communication and data movement and data traffic and all of that stuff.
So what's the next frontier of this challenge?
I think that it's really a time for organizations to be inventorying where they're at and considering upgrades, to be completely honest, right? I think that AI has been a bit of a wake-up moment for saying, hey, there's a big opportunity here. There's a need to deliver this technology. It can do everything from make consumers happy because, they can answer questions, to help with customer service, detect fraud, lots of other things, as I mentioned, urban hotspots and deforestation analysis and things like that. So there's many, many different topics that it can be brought to bear on, but doing so in a responsible way can be the foundation for growth. Ultimately, the sustainability conversation in IT for AI is the way that you can grow forward as a company and be effective in this era to your customers, to your employees, with your business overall. And so this just brings a moment, I think, in which many are reconsidering and needing to upgrade their infrastructure to meet this moment in a sustainable, responsible way.
In our final moments, we are going to play a game of Would You Rather.
Okay.
Okay. Some of the audience members know the drill, but you don't, and that's why it's fun. Would you rather partner more with governments or other corporations? You have to choose.
I have to choose, gosh. I think that there is a ton of innovation coming right now from different corporate partnerships, and I think that can service the needs of governments that are looking to advance.
That's not really answering the question, but I'm gonna let you have it, Hillary. Would you rather spend an hour in Climate Week in UNGA traffic or 45 minutes on the subway?
Oh, 45 on the subway, and I came here on the subway as well.
Good for you. Would you rather have an AI model that always agrees with you or never agrees with you?
I'm gonna go with never, because thought-provoking is really important.
Yeah, and I think the latest version of ChatGPT has been less agreeable, which I appreciate. Would you rather see the past or change the future?
Change the future, 100%.
Well, Hillary, that is all the time we have for today, but thank you so much for joining Axios.
Thank you so much for having me.
And to our audience, we have more events here at Axios House a little bit later today and through Wednesday afternoon, including conversations with the Amazon Sustainability Officer, Kara Hurst, and Senator Sheldon Whitehouse. So hope to see you again soon.